Hi, my name is Holly Yantel. This is the fourth video in a series about the medical theory of psychology, a novel theory I developed about bringing health metrics and falsifiable diagnostic methods to mental health and psychology. This video is particularly about research and development applications in AI or artificial intelligence and ways that artificial intelligence can be integrated with the models I've developed in order to create um, tools and different models for public health benefit and near future use that I think could be of really great public good. Um, This is part of an application for OpenAI to be a model designer. But should they not be interested, which I hope they are, fingers crossed, should they not be, this of course can be related to other companies or places in academia um, or the intelligence community where AI research is really happening right now. So uh, I hope you enjoy this presentation. We'll get right into it. So this is just basically how applying AI with what I'm bringing to the table can bring about new types of modeling and models that can be used right away in terms of public health. Um, I create Boolean logic frameworks that transform human behavior and decision making into discrete, testable math models. These models open powerful new frontiers for AI application and research. Um, So I'm not a programmer. I don't have background in programming or computer science, actually. My background is in natural science or psychology. I kind of studied both natural science and psychology, had like geology, meteorology, a little bit of physics and math, and then psychology, sociology. Social theory and practice was my major at the University of Michigan. I did not complete that. Would love to go back to school and complete my PhD eventually is my goals. Um, but for now, I'm just trying to find any work or whether it's in academia or with private companies doing research, which will probably end up using AI at some point in this research. And I think it'd be really cool to work in AI and, create different types of models and create the different kinds of like, uh, so then we could, you know, our different institutions of law and sciences and stuff like that could really use some organizing. And we can't really apply LLMs now to kind of like organizing and creating really cool technology for these sciences because it's so generalized. I talk a little bit about that. Um, So I have basically like I'm a competent computer user, use all the Google Suite, Adobe Suite stuff, and Microsoft. And I also use software like ChatGPT pretty well. I have seen like limitations in how I can use it. It's not quite smart enough for the stuff I do in a way of speaking. But it can be really helpful. And it actually was really helpful when I used it to talk about this portfolio. Um, And a lot of what I do analyzes human behavior, which has been a lot of like the underpinnings of game theory and a lot of research effort over the years. And they haven't really developed a way of doing this, asking these kind of like Socratic questions and like, or questions that can come up with like two variable answers. And they could be like multi-tier questions to create the one or the other variable. So it's cool ways that you can build on just binary math. Um, to create things in real life. And it's kind of like this math. I know this math underpins computer programming and computer software and computation and stuff like that in general. I don't have a lot of experience with probability. I've only taken pre-calculus, but I am familiar with Bayes' theorem and can use it and apply it decently well. Don't have it memorized yet, so I don't think I have complete understanding of it, but I have enough. And probability math is relatively easy for me. So I could definitely learn more. And I'm a quick learner, so I could learn programming language pretty easily. Um, and I just think like AI is like they expected AI to just like change everything and just discover new things for us. And I think it's limited that it really can't figure out stuff for us that we haven't figured out for ourselves yet. It can't figure out stuff like before we can, I don't think. So I don't think we can use LLMs or AI technology to necessarily figure out stuff that we can't. We might be able to use it to find stuff such as like patterns and data and locate stuff easier than we can. Um, but I don't think they're going to be capable of doing things that we are unable to do. I think a lot of the hype surrounding AI talks about that kind of stuff. Um, and I would think that the kind of way they are hoping to do that is with artificial data, but I think it has kind of its limitations to where it just becomes like kind of nonsense. I would guess trying to use too much artificial data if it doesn't have like novel things or like adequate stuff to go off of. There's a limitation to how much human enterprise is out there and how much research has been done. Um, and I would just guess that we've probably like reached the limits of AI application with that unless we do new things with AI. And I'm proposing ways to do new things with AI. Um, so the kind of models that I want to really look into developing, I call situation specific modeling. Um, and I'm really excited about this. I think this is really cool because I think like how LLMs are used now. You just can kind of use it for anything. It's a jack of all trades. And situation specific modeling it would have access to that kind of like background training data. So like where the models are at now in terms of the all encompassing generalized training data that would remain, maybe be refined, and could be refined using kind of Boolean logic applications. But take the models now and then create an additional layer to that model that is situation specific. And then, so when you do that, like when you take the model and you really gear it towards like astronomy, for example, the goal of this is to have it be trained by use, or trained by intended use. So if you have a model that is devoted to astrophysics, stuff like that, and actual astrophysicist scientists are using it and putting data into it and having it collect data and stuff like that, like the actual use by professionals is what trains the model to become smarter. So like you could, lease out your own astrophysics model to different from, NASA to SpaceX to, whatever, Boeing, uh, um, so different ones if there's like competing areas of like different types of research. Um, or you could have ones dedicated to like public research or public good, public benefit, public domain uh, type research. Um, but the goal for these situation specific models is like the trading happens with use. So how I think it operates now is like OpenAI and these different tech companies is that they have software developers or machine learning developers behind the scenes that are training the models. And so they're, expected to get smarter and get better and, they're training to become more whatever. And with situation specific models, it's like meant to be kind of um a subject matter expert on a particular subject. And so it's instead of getting like queer, so you can't do training via use really right now with how like ChatGPT is used to the public, for example, because like it's not necessarily adding beneficial information into the AI. It's asking questions or just not giving any kind of data that would be like useful for its trading or useful for like, developing stuff with it. Um, Whereas if a scientist is using it, it's putting information into the system that is like useful to its own training and development. Um, so that's why you would need kind of situation specific models in order to have intended use be what trains it. Um, because intended use being what trains is like kind of what I wanted, what I first saw um, when I was first exposed to AI, which was 2023. Late 2023 is when I really started looking into it. And having just like my use of it, just train it over time seems helpful. And it seems limited, at least like I can only afford like the free versions of various AI, both the free chat, like there's only so much memory it can store for you. Um, And having that kind of available memory storage, but like a situation specific one, like I would make my situation specific would be like for writing books, for example, or like writing self-help books. Um, or so I want to do a lot of like self-help through like an astrological lens, but I would build it up literarily through my own work and kind of train it in a way uh through what I want it to be trained on in terms of what its outputs look like. And but you generally can't, I'm a different case, whereas like general users are not providing data into the LLM, not giving it inputs that can really be used for training. Um, but having this kind of like this feedback loop where people like scientists are actually putting new data, new like novel stuff into it and applying it to that LLMs, like it ends up getting it smarter and better on that information. And then there could still be like remedial updates to like the general base layer of the LLM's intelligence or capability, but that situation specific, could be considered IP and like privatized or like given out or whatever. But it ultimately um it is its own trained kind of additional layer or its own trained model in of itself. Um that like the astrophysics model wouldn't be influenced by how the astrophysics model trains itself isn't influenced by how the meteorology model trains itself. Like they're completely like separate, but they share that base like general knowledge, which may be updated. Um, so and having the use be part of its capacity to grow and to get better and to retain data and to provide reports and stuff like that um, kind of makes it into a really cooperative kind of like situation. I feel like one of the problems with AI right now is that people wanted to do most of the work. And you know, doing that, of course, will ultimately streamline labor, which is a good thing. Um, but for it to do smart things, you have to put smart things into it. It can't just create something out of nothing. Um, I think people kind of get a little hyped up about it. And all technology and progress should be, I think, I really think should be geared towards public health and fixing our social problems until they're fixed. We have problems of disparity, health access disparity included, but also poverty, racism, all that stuff. And I think like all progress in technology should be devoted to eradicating those things because we can get rid of them, then we should. And problems with capitalism and inequity and all that stuff. So I think that's kind of, we're not going to be able to do much more with any kind of progress or technology until we fix those things. Um, because part of the problem is there's this unfairness and there's this competitive base, like what this technology, even AI, what it was made for isn't necessarily healthy. And what a lot of industry is made for and why a lot of R&D happens isn't necessarily healthy or for the good of everyone. So, that's part of the problem. So we reach a limit of what we can do. Part of why there's such a big limit where we're at right now is because there's like things trying to happen are very destructive. It's not sustainable how we run society. It will ultimately destroy itself. So, and we see that with climate change and stuff happening, in like the security of social stability. And so like it's not sustainable. And so this technology can't create sustainability out of unsustainable symptoms. Systems that just not work. And so part of the problems we have to address are like creating a sustainable society that's cooperative, stuff like that. And then we can really apply AI and research and R&D into stuff that can really, grow our technology and grow our civilization and ultimately our quality of life and stuff like that. But for all the talk that people in AI tend to give and hype they try to give up, it's like, they don't talk about these underlying problems that need to be solved before we can reach any kind of like new cool heights. Otherwise, we're just kind of stuck with technology that doesn't really advance much because the goals aren't to advance, is to perpetuate disparity and, power inequity and disparity, stuff like that. So, um, that's one of the biggest limitations is that it's not geared towards anything good. It's geared towards profit, really, at the end of the day. Um, and it could be geared instead towards public good. Um, yeah, applying more logic and like logic into decision making and multivariable logic into decision making, it it can really reduce the amount of like compute that has to go into like these models operating. And especially if it's being constantly trained with use, but like in a logical, coherent way, um, it can be made really energy efficient. So the first model I would start with would be integrating directly my medical theory of psychology. So it's not built to answer or solve everything. So it would built to it would I would give all my data and then I would create more research data to put into it and training data and stuff like that. And it would be like it'd be like when you fill out I've been doing a lot of job applications lately. So when you fill out job applications, it asks you like a short answer question, kind of like that, where you're using AI, but you can only enter so many things. You can only enter like a situation specific, or like if it's a journal entry, you can only enter what looks like a journal entry for that day. If it's asking about your relationship health, you can only talk about stuff as it pertains to your relationship for it to get like a valid response and be able to give like coaching advice and stuff like that. So I think like how it's trained, how ChatGPT is trained now, like it gives really good coaching advice and like general advice, but it can be refined and added with like techniques and talk someone through something or how they can figure it out or give them a step by step that's tailored to like how they need to see it. Um, So like it's really good at what it does, and it could just be like that could just be built upon, I think, in a lot of ways. Um, and like it could also, I don't want it to be like a talk therapy kind of thing. I think group therapy is healthier than talk therapy, but I think it's like I don't want it to quite be talk therapy, but I want it to be more than just journaling. Um, So like guidance journaling maybe or something like that. But it's a way to be proactive about your own mental health and your own emotional journey and stuff like that. And it can just provide a way to um really see your progress and also, provide good insight on how to deal with like life stressors and stuff like that. Um, I don't think AI should replace all jobs, of course. But we can like reduce menial labor overall using AI and just the correct development of technology in general. Um, and AI can treat to a point. When I was using ChatGPT, it said it couldn't diagnose, but I think the only reason why logically that it can't diagnose because if it can if it can gauge, if it can gauge what somebody says and quantify it to mean something that falls into a very logical system, I think it could accurately diagnose. Or it could diagnose based off of like a multiple choice thing. The only thing that it can't do is verify the veracity of the claims. So it can't tell if the user is lying or not. Um, and that's where a provider would get involved with diagnosis to verify what's being said is true and what's being said is accurate. And they understand what they're saying and stuff like that. So you qualify if they understand what they're saying um, through AI, but qualifying whether or not what the person is saying is an accurate representation of their life or who they are or whatever, that would be more difficult with AI. But up until that diagnostic point or that prescriptive uh, point, AI I think can be used, and not as therapy, but as like guided coaching, where it can rate inputs like how people like journal and stuff like that, and gauge how they're doing in their progress and their need for outright. Um, it can definitely it's not like for everyone, but for people who need it or people who could benefit from it, and it could like could include like surveying for how long they want to use it for and stuff like that and geared towards like, 3-month plan, 9-month plan, 12-month plan, for however long you want to use this kind of like guidance for. Um, and also I think it could be really cool for just other applications of different kinds of health besides that. But that's like the first kind of model I build is like a psychology health model that just gives advice based on like codependent and survival and object permanence problems. And just problems that are found in a lot of the population. I think are like cluster B pathologies as well. Um, but that would be the first model I like to develop. But there are really cool things you could do with my kind of math. Oh, first. So chat just created some pseudocode. But what I thought was cool is he created these names like stabilization pack, codependence risk pack, solo safety pack, separation tolerance pack, skill growth pack. Um, he used my words correctly, like and so like vitality, viability are things that I do. But it's cool that it seems in programming like this it's really easy to apply my stuff to. Um, if then type statements, that's what programming is a lot of if then statements. Um, and it impressed me. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I can create something like that. Like getting that kind of feedback. Um, that's really cool how it can like anticipate next steps. But I'm putting a lot into it. I'm putting like a lot of my own novel work and models and stuff like that. And so for it to like be able to suggest things like that, I think it's because I'm putting a lot into it. Um, so it can return useful stuff. Um, So this is human design and Sage but it's kind of a weird place. But it's cool tropical astrology with the Chinese I Ching. So I call it Chinese tropical astrology to kind of step away. I think the creator of it is cool, but he passed away in 2011, and it's I think it should be in the public domain, but that's neither here nor there. But I think it's a really cool system, tropical Chinese astrology. But um, it's actually it provides a cool way of just kind of abstracting the human experience. So if you take the astrology out of it and you were to attribute these numbers to mean something else, these could represent areas of the body. So like solar plexus could represent digestion and autonomous processes. The sacral can represent movement and then diseases related to that or health related to that. I explained it in this presentation. It's like you could have it flag pathologies and disease, but you can also have it flag health. So if they're all connected and lit up, it's a good thing because there's health. And if they're missing or dormant, it means that there's like problems. So either way, but instead of like having astrology inform like what all these mean, you could have it be different, health tests, um, health test results and stuff like that and what they mean. And they can connect to say meaningful things about human health. So, I was reading some a publication about like the diagnostic process, and it was interesting to me. It's about medical diagnostic process, and they said there's no universally accepted or no universally standard basic health checkup. It's all kind of different. Like a standard, like, blood pressure tests are relatively the same wherever you go. So it's like how they use a stethoscope and stuff like that. But who does what during these general practice appointments is very different. And so it looks like there's a lot of room for areas that health could be organized. And AI could be applied to that, but you would have to come up with like underlying kind of logic behind it. So this does it. This is the math that I do to represent algebraically and logically the current human design system. So it has 5 types if you're not familiar. And I do 3 variable logic. So because that could represent 5 distinct types. And there's more X, Y, and F variations you could have, but since I only need 5 to represent the 5 types of human design, I only use that. So there's application for like giving medical information when you have stuff activated or shown on a chart to begin with. But then there's further application that you can create these logic statements that are either occurring or not, um, and link it in equations to give diagnostics. So I'm not sure that there's like underlying math to the overall diagnostic process, but there could be a framework created um, to create the diagnostic process in math, or to make it so that like all illnesses could have a corresponding equation that would be true. So like, for example, strep throat, you can make a variable where WP is like white pustules, I think it's called pustules on the back of the throat. DC is swollen adenoids or swollen tonsils. Or ST could be swollen tonsils, and then um, you know, the X variable can be fever. And so they would all have to they have to fit this top equation. So they'd all have to be occurring for it to be strep throat. Or if 2 out of 3 have to be occurring for it to be strep throat, then you can make it one of these two variable equations. But so you could take this kind of variable logic and, if 3, it's, the worst kind of strep throat. If 2 variables are possible, it's like mild strep throat or whatever. You could even put that on like one of my logic trees. It's just a little bit different, but there are different ways that this Boolean logic can be applied to diagnostic medicine as well as AI. But I think even using AI to apply to diagnostic medicine is also another cool way it could be used. So this is just like kind of the user experience kind of portal. Like people could even choose um, what kind of themes they have in their portal and for their mental health stuff and have like different ones that match their mood or whatever. Um, but it could just, say you could change different things or whatever and like mark when you complete something, just a very rudimentary kind of example. Um, which is what their thing looks like. And I do want to create a therapy based on astrology. So that's why I included this intergenerational trauma healing guide and tools. I feel like that'd be a cool thing to apply an astrological framework for. I also want to use AI to research astrology. I'd love to create my own model for astrology. That'd be the model I want to create the most, is an astrology model. That's what I would do. I could create any model I want. It would be an astrology. It wouldn't be a psychology model. It wouldn't be a medical model. It would be an astrology model because I'm an astrology nerd. Um, but there's so much application for my math skills and medicine and AI application and computer application. So that about sums it up. So thank you so much for watching. If you want, I invite anyone to reach out to me for research opportunities or for a job interview at the Oracle of Delray at gmail.com. I also invite and encourage all donations to my Cash App, Coffee Crow, hashtag Coffee Crow 420. Thank you so much for watching this. This is really exciting, I think, and I really hope to bring this math and science into the private sector or academia soon. So thank you so much for watching.